Hi and welcome to a new video. This video is going to be a start on a new series of analysis, which is going to be 3 videos a week of. And the goal of the series is just to do very somewhat in-depth analysis in professional Overwatch matches, looking at contenders and Overwatch. Today I'm going to be looking at Mayhem Academy against Fusion University, two of, if not the two best teams in North American contenders, both regions. The reason I wanted to show this match is it was a pretty big quote unquote upset. It wasn't really a surprising thing that Mayhem won the series, but it is the end for the Fusion 30-0 win streak. So I'm going to be looking at this map Eichenwalde, and there's a few reasons I've chosen to do a hybrid map. And it's mainly because there was some interesting comps on first point. And then I'm going to explain the issue with hybrid in the current meta seeing. And what makes it really frustrating for teams to play this specific game mode. Starting off, Mayhem Academy has sort of anti-goat spam-ish composition defense, running a Pharah and Nash. They're running together the Mercy for the damage boost and Anna for the extra healing onto the tanks who are to contest the point and make sure the goat's comp just doesn't win off point pressure. Fusion University, who just like Mayhem Academy, strong DPS player, a very strong support and alarm, very strong mechanical players. Like, hey, we're not going to play ghosts into this. Probably with Mayhem usually has practice against, and is the reason they're playing this comp. And I want to talk a bit about why that's not such a big issue for Mayhem. And that is, if Mayhem is able to force Fusion University to play a composition which Mayhem can think they can beat with goats, they can force Fusion University to either just lose a fight and then switch to goats, or they can straight up force them to switch goats off the first point, and force them to swap their entire composition to force the mirror. Because once the map is started, you kind of have to swap into goats if the other team is playing ghosts, but I'll explain more about that after the first point of this Fusion University attack. Going into it, Fusion Uni decides to counter the Mayhem Academy comp with a Protecting McCree comp, or a Super McCree, or a Nose People Cultic Glads comp. There's a lot of names for this, but we haven't seen it in a while. It's basically just pouring your resources into your hit scan player and your flex support, allowing them to pop off. For Mayhem Academy, you need to play around the fact that they have these two very heavy spam heroes in Mangachu and Shax who are playing Ash and Pharah. The way to do that is by pressuring the front line of Fusion University, stopping them from moving in and getting value from playing the McCree. But why is this a smart choice from Fusion Uni? Well, they potentially play 4 heroes, which they're going to move into if they swap goats. It's the D.Va, Greg, Sen, and the Lucio. All these heroes are going to stay if they swap to goats. While on Mayhem Academy, it's only the D.Va. Which means it's going to be an ultimate just going in Fusion Universe if the teams decide to swap goats, which I assume is the idea of Mayhem Academy's comp here. Force the goats in second point. They can swap into countering whatever Fusion University attacks first with. And Mayhem Academy would be forced to swap into goats against this because it's a hard counter to the comp. Not theory about the composition, let's see how they play it out.
For Mayhem is, do they get Nano in time? Do they get Bob in time?
Well, already they get an early pickoff. Mangachu just...
Oh, there's not that much you can do, but that is nice. Like, just make sure you're walking out as one together when the Pharah spamming, because Pharah does a ton of damage. And I wouldn't really advise this composition on defense. And that's for 2 reasons. If you cannot fulfill these 2 requirements and reasons, I wouldn't run Pharah on this point. 1. Is Mangachu your flex DPS? If the answer is no, you should probably not run the Pharah on defense on the current patch that the Contenders was played on. You can try it in the more recent patch though. Remember, this is played in Contenders patch, which is before armor changes with beamed weapons. Quite an old patch right now. But anyhow, and the second one, do you have a super mechanical skill hit scan on your team who can actually create the space for you to pressure onto tanks to allow you to do this? And if the answer is again no, then it's probably not a good idea to try. They get away with like probably playing this in scrims because they have such incredibly mechanically strong DPS players.
Going to be sending nice
Also, this range that Farah is playing on, from the position on the rooftop to the spawn, is outside of McCree's efficient range. McCree cannot do anything to contest Farah at this range.
You don't see as much now.
So Snail goes to the Widowmaker to force the Farah back. Which is good.
Most dominant Pharahs in OW history.
I do not like this positioning from Shax. And I'm going to give you 2 reasons. One, you don't need to pressure tanks this early to get value because your Farah wouldn't be able to contest them yet anyway. At least until they reach like this stage. Right here. And then you could just as efficiently poke them from over here and have an easy transition to contest point, or being around the point. While in this position, there's a long sightline, which means that the supports will be able to see you at the same time you will see their tanks. And then it's going to force you to back off, or you even open yourself to die to the supports in the McCree as the Ashe. So it's a very greedy position here from Shax.
And you see Nice is going to be playing the McCree. It is a option here into the Pharah, into the Ashe.
Like I said, you don't want to take that long sideline. Sure, long sidelines are good for Ashe, but make sure you can stop the support from Sen and the McCree from seeing you on that range. Especially when you're playing against such a monster of flex support as Alarm. You might just call it unlucky as well, but there's always a way to counterplay that. You would have the vision of the monkey right here if you positioned on the other side of the choke. They probably had their reason for this positioning though, so I respect that. I just think it would be a better idea to position the opposite side of the tower than take this sightline instead of this sightline. Yes, it's shorter, but you are no risk of dying to a Sen or a McCree.
I think Sombra is also a very good one as Alarm gets the right click, the Paintbrush gets the res there.
Good positioning, good aggression. The Beast Halo going super far in to create the space, and his team is just rapidly following. They got a pick, they can go. Because they need to take away the space before the fire can spam them down. Many teams forget that when playing against spam, they will not just outright kill you a lot of the time. They need time to kill you. Well, you can collapse into targets because of the more consistent damage this composition has. Single target focus damage. So if you're very quick when engaging like this, especially when you get a pick, you should just be able to roll over the fight.
We'll see if they're able to get the res. They do get the res, but it comes at such a cost. There's so much damage on the front line. Nice going wild on the point. And when you res, even if you get the res off.
This comes from Fusion Uni, the Glabs combo. I'm going to call it the Protector McCree for this video, just for simplicity. Once it gets a pick, it snowballs the fight very hard. There's no real way of stopping it because it's so well protected, right? Lucio healing, Sen healing, Break healing, Break for anti-dive, Diva Matrix for countering spam, Monkey to create space and diving, Lucio speed to get into position quicker, McCree and Break stuns to shut things. It's just a combo that's really good at finishing off fights. And once you get rolling into a fight, you rarely lose because it's so good at stabilizing. It's like a constant just ball of stabilization, just walking into a point.
You're not healing during that time.
I just think there's just not enough pressure onto the tanks of Fusion Uni compared to the positioning that they took. They took a way too aggressive position with Shax, meaning Mangy tried to back off because Shax died. While backing off, Fusion Uni walks in and gets a pick onto Manhattan. I think if Shax took a position to the opposite side of the tower, he would have a sightline which was slightly worse, but the trade-off would be that the enemy support would have a worse sightline on him in return, and he would be able to start spamming at the same time Mangachu would, which means the spamming is more efficient.
Man, that just went from bad
that
to
was
worse
incredible.
very quickly.
That was an incredible push for Fusion Uni. I mean, Alarm.
So, right. Mayhem Academy goes Ghost. Fusion Uni is on Protected McCree. They're gonna stay right because they have ultimates. No, they aren't. Mayhem Academy goes goats, and second point of this map is super ghost favored. And in general, and this is the issue with hybrid and payload maps right now, the fact that time bank is so important in a goats matchup is that goats will just want to walk the payload and stand in for as long as possible. They want to fight as much as possible, in a way. But if they can just run the clock down without using ultimates and forcing the attackers to use ultimates themselves, eventually the clock will hit 0 and they just ult, and then the fight is over. So in order to stop that, you play goats yourself as well, which is able to brute force a fight onto point. And it's usually quicker. So the instant Mayhem Academy here switches to goats and defense. Well, they switch to Winston goats, and I'm gonna call it that instead of float to cause confusion, not cause confusion. And let's see, what does Fusion Uni do? They swap. They do, however, take the Rhine. And this should force Vision to go back and switch to Rhine himself as well. There we have the swap. And there's not two options for Mayhem Academy. They're down in ultimates because of the ult takeover from the Protecting McCree comp that Fusion University has. Eva charge, then charge, break charge, some very insignificant loser charge that they have. So I'm an advocate of playing very aggressively with proactive ult usage, like we saw in the finals of Overwatch League, actually, between the Shock and Titans. Titans is a super proactive and quick team. They would aggro trance, aggro beat, aggro bomb. They would do these things. And instead of just playing basic like a lot of teams, they would aggro trance. Okay, how are we going to counter the next grab from the enemy team? Well, what about we full DM the Zarya as we start the engagement, and then after the DM is over and they're going to grab, we deep bomb up in the air to stop them from being able to commit to the grab. Sure, let's try that. And it's a play that works really, really well. And the different play is, oh hey, they have like Brig ult, or they have defensive ults only. Or they have every ult and we only have Diva Bomb. Let's Diva Bomb them and run at them. Which is a play that surprisingly often works. And it works because you force the enemy team to make decisions. And right here, Mayhem Academy needs to win the fight before Fusion gets the ultimates. Or they need to win the fight before, after the ults is built. They're able to build their own ults. The third option is to eat the fight, or strategically lose the fight, build ultimates, and force Fusion Uni to use ultimates by pressuring certain targets. With three options, I would say Mayhem Academy could go with any of the three and it would be good for them. They just need to make sure they're committing to a plan. So let's see what they're doing. They're going to be a little bit late, which means the aggression plan is kind of difficult because Alarm is going to build moral charge. You preferably want to already be starting an engagement, I think.
Now Fusion Uni still doing food first. In Mayhem Academy, we had to make a full comp swap. That's sort of one of the dangers of not running that 3-3 from the beginning, is the ult game, the ult tempo that you lose. Alarm very far ahead in that Transcendence. Nice making swap with Zarya, obviously.
Ep stops the low ground, and which might seem, why doesn't stand high ground, he can keep poking. The thing is that it opens him up beginning though by Bernard. He can get poked up by Alarm. He can get poked up by Car. All the damage that can poke him down, so he needs to stay behind the shrine to provide support.
He's gonna be eating an early stun here. Heavy focus fire onto him. Just bare.
So, like Vision presses shift. Then he goes into the enemy backline. Let's see, is there anything he spots as a reason to do that?
He's gonna be eating an early stun here. Heavy focus.
I do not see a reason for why he would do this in the first place. In general, you never want to charge in goods. Like, if you could unbind that key from your keyboard, it would probably be more beneficial than having to use it every fight. There are certain situations, yes, where you want to charge and the charge is really good. But most of the time, it's just really, really bad. I understand the reasoning behind the charge, so they have to force the fight because they're behind in ults. So they need to win this fight quickly. So they do an aggressive engagement, they slightly back off, and then they go for a charge. I think the charge is completely unnecessary. And who is it he say Alarm says to this chance? The Beast Halo is half-ish, Bernard is 3/4-ish, and he pops a chance. I don't think he needed to do that at all. It's fine, because Mayhem Academy has no charge in this area. It is no ultimates in general, and the fight should be won by this. 100%. It might have been won without it as well, because Fact Fiction ancient to Dynamic back on with a charge.
That is a charge and then some from Fact. He willingly isolates himself, puts himself in a corner at Fusion University.
I think there was better options for Fusion Uni if you look at this. They have the position on Shax up on the high ground. If he remains in this position up here, while Fact holds this corner, and Manhattan plays with Fact and Mangachu, while Epps take a wide sideline towards enemy Ryan, that'd be really good. Shax will be able to beam down the targets building ult charge because he's already high charge after using his first bubble rotation. They can then wait for the second bubble rotation before they do anything more. Shax is in a position where he can keep poking. There's also no way for him to get booped down from this by a D.Va. D.Va would only boop him down to his own side. So I think Shax's in a really good position to just free farm anyone, and they would just win this fight from it. And here they should just back off to the corner and hold the corner. Because this charge doesn't do anything. It just kind of lets you die. So for all the round players that's out there and running to charging goats, you usually do more by just swinging your hammer. Charging is so rarely worth it. Fusion Uni doesn't really react to it in the way you normally would. That your Ryan keeps focusing on the enemy team, and your Sen and your Brig and your Zarya would kill the Ryan. Which means that Lee Sun goes kind of low, and Alarm uses ultimate, which is kind of a waste that could have been used to win the entire point next fight.
Fact, he willingly isolates himself, puts himself in a corner at Fusion University. They're not ones to miss those opportunities. They punish Fact as well as he should have been for that. It still falls into the back. This is more even than I'd expect for a Fact going so deep.
And Mangachu commits the rally as well. Though the Shadow of Beast Halo, that should be it. That should be the nail in the coffin.
Unfortunate for Mangachu. That was...
It's the fight over. And Fusion gets a push. Why is this really, really bad for Mayhem Academy? It's bad for a few reasons. One, they do not build ultimates because Fact dies too quickly for Shax and Epps to deal any significant damage. 2, Mangachu uses his rally. They give up the opportunity to have a rally to mirror in the next fight for Fusion Uni to counter an aggressive play. This opens Fusion University up for doing a super aggressive play next fight without Mayhem having any counter play whatsoever. And the third reason that this is really, really bad is that the fight lost so short. It's a super short fight. So they didn't run down the clock. Fusion just got like 2/3 of the point in 1 minute. Winning one fight. That shouldn't happen. You should make the fight last longer. This is the case.
Not a good decision. That was
So moving into the next fight, what is the options the team have? Again, I think that because of the lack of chance from Fusion Uni, Mayhem Academy can make a super aggressive play or bomb. This should force out the chance, the grab, from Fusion Uni, and by that time that goes out, they would have chance. And the of them should split them up to such an extent that we might even not need to use chance. If we have to use it, you should be able to use it late. Meaning that you can aggress with it after the grab has ended. And Fusion Uni will never be able to commit to it. I think that's a very solid win condition going into this fight. Fusion Uni, I would advise not using the grab here, which might sound really counterintuitive. But because Mangachu uses Rally the previous fight and you know he doesn't have it, and you should know the Shax doesn't have any ult charge, at least early in the fight, because he didn't get the space he needed in the previous fight. because of fact fiction searching in. So I would advise Fusion do an aggressive play with Rally and Bomb. So once, like maybe even right here, Bomb kind of in the middle, kind of a little bit behind Mayhem Academy, and run it with Rally, because there shouldn't be any way Mayhem Academy can counter this unless they counter aggressive ult with Eva Bomb. And this should allow you to either force the trance before you grab, or you should have be able to kill the Sand before he gets trance. Either way, that's really good.
Quickly here, 3 minutes, 50 seconds left in the clock. The Graviton in reserve. Bernard holding on to the combo. We watch nicely.
This is really good. Up until the grab. I think if you bomb right here, meaning that people can walk into this to stop it, walk into here, but their tags are too far forward to do anything about it, so they have to walk this way, or just stand here. If you get that bomb and a rally, I think Mayhem Academy just dies. And I honestly think that's the play the Fusion Union should have gone for. This grab has the trance. And the bomb is really hard to hit right here in a grab. Because the placement needs to be pretty precise. But let's see if it works. And this is the thing we talked about earlier, right? Counterplaying a grab with a bomb. You bomb on a grab, they cannot commit to it. Paintbrush booping off too. Very good play from him. Probably positioning error from Nice and Snillo. But there's nothing you can do about that.
That was a huge hero play, not only from Paintbrush, but from Manatee.
But this could all have been stopped by using the Diva Bomb earlier from Bernard. It wouldn't allow Paintbrush to go aggressive because he would die to the bomb. Fact Fiction would have died much earlier. They wouldn't be able to sustain pressure because he would either die to the push or the bomb. They would either have to stop the damage from Ryan and Sari with the bubble or the bomb damage. Either way, Factor just died because if you don't bubble the bomb, he's going to get bashed and die to it. If they don't bubble the aggression, he should just die immediately anyway. So, to stop the aggression, they should have used Diva Bomb instead of the grab, I think, and then followed up with the grab afterwards if needed. It would have been a much stronger play considering the ultimates they had going into it.
Getting that bomb kill onto Alarm, even without the boops, with Alarm down, that would have been a huge impact frag. Mayhem Academy bringing it back despite their disadvantage in the combo. Great series.
It's relative to where he was at some point.
So the cast mentions the combo game. And then I would like to say, I think the reason that Titans won the match in Overwatch League, or the final, is very much that they didn't play the combo game. Because everyone plays the combo game. Suddenly a team doesn't play the combo game anymore. And, oh, what do we do now? They aggressive Diva Bomb us whenever they have it. How do we counter this? We have never met this before. Or they always aggro rally into us. Or they aggro trance. How do we deal with these things? And you have to figure that out in the middle of a series. It's so hard to deal with. And it's so aggressive and it's so punishing if it works because they trade one ultimate for a win one fight even when they have an ult disadvantage because the other team just doesn't know how to react. And this is a big problem I see with Fusion Uni. They play so basic. They do what everyone else does. They do it really well, and they're so good at it. But everyone knows how to react. Everyone knows the answers. Mayhem Academy, they know what they need to do in every situation whenever they meet something they have been up against before. Instant you do something new, they might struggle. I don't know, because we don't see it in the series, and we haven't really seen Mayhem get contested properly yet on this specific thing. But I think if teams do not play basic, they have a better chance of beating Mayhem. And the same against Fusion. I think against most teams, that's the thing. Until it becomes people figure out how to play against those styles, of course. It is almost the same. So I made a comparison to OWL. If I'm going to make a comparison to Tier 3, there was a team last season called No U OTP in Open Division who did really well, and they're playing again this year under the name Clockwork Vendetta. And they have this really weird, unconventional one-trick comp, and they never scrim and they never do anything, but they do really well. They beat good teams. And it works because people don't know how to react to it. Of course, it's a very like different game on teams how good they are at reacting on tier 3, tier 2, and tier 1 levels. But there are examples of this at all 3 levels. I just want to make that clear. That you have teams like the first week of NA Contenders East. There was a team called Sky Foxes who played Anna Sombra Goats. And I think they just won that series off the other team not knowing how to react to that. So it's doing things that people don't know how to deal with initially before going into a series can be really, really strong. That's all I wanted to say.
Points last year, he has really been coming into his own.
Now, Paintbrush having the beat, also the grab still.
So, ult game. Mayhem needs to win this using as few ultimates as possible. What are their options? Well, they should be able to just set up a grab and win with the grab alone, but let's see what they do.
And notice, 0 support ult for Fusion Unity right now.
Shax holding on to the grab.
Also, this is an important point. This bridge is a danger zone. You will see most teams try to not enter this box at all. Because this is the area where you can get knocked off. Which is so normal in GOATs because this guy can't get back if he gets knocked off, this person can. This person can somewhat, but not really. And so is it with this person. They can't get back up again. So what you'll see a lot of teams do, they will just hold here. And then look for chances to throw those in the bridge off. Which is a really, really good way of doing it. It's so hard to push through this. Which is why you see a lot of teams going through the castle instead.
Here from Mayhem Academy. Mayhem Academy just backing out. Fusion University pushing the issue. Both teams deadlocked here on the bridge. And you look at Paintbrush, not going for any crazy boops here just yet. You know, always have to be aware of.
How? Does Beast Halo allow that to happen? Does his shield break?
Paintbrush not going for any crazy
I don't think so.
just yet.
His shield is healthy, but it's a fire strike. There's no reason whatsoever for Beast Halo to fire strike them. They're on a bridge in the zone. They know Fiction has Shatter because he hasn't used it yet in 2 fights. Even though he died early-ish in the first one, he has the Shatter. If Iran hasn't used Shatter for 2 fights, he has it for the 3rd, almost no matter how the previous 2 fights went. And they even won one of the fights. You have ultimate yourself, Beast Halo. Your Fire Strike is, if anything, going to defeat Epps, Mangachu, and Paintbrush more ult charge. All it's going to accomplish. So it's a really good shatter from Fiction on the Fire Strike.
You look at Paintbrush not going for any crazy boops here.
And this is something I'm going to follow a bit more for the rest of the series. Does Beast Halo always Fire Strike and cooldown? If so, that's abusable. Small things like that in gameplay, this could be why the shatter hits, because Fiction knows, okay, if Fire Strike's on cooldown, let's go back and watch the fight again and see how Fire Strikes are used.
Mayhem Academy just backing out. Fusion University pushing the issue.
Fire Strike, 6-second cooldown.
Both teams
1,
deadlocked here
2,
on the bridge.
3, 4, 5, 6.
Just yet.
He used Fire Strike. He's basically using it on cooldown in fights. That is abusable behavior, is something we call it. And you can spot these things in players at how they do in fights. And it's a good reason to just, oh, what if you hold your Fire Strike 1 second extra every time? That could be really good. But it's just small things like that, which a coach or a player can spot in watching VODs. It's really important. And I think that kind of scouting could have been the exact reason that this shatter hits. And this is a massive shatter. Winston the entire fight, with 1 ultimate, without Fusion Uni being able to do anything about it. Meaning Manetton's gonna build ult, Mangachu's gonna build ult, Ep's gonna have ult. 5 ultimates to snowball the rest of the map is massive.
Is an Earth Shatter fact, finding the opening, set up there.
Oh, this is okay. This is, in a way, it's really bad by fact, and it's really bad by Alarm Beast Halo at the same time. The fight is basically already over, no matter how this rest of this fight goes. And the reason is Alarm is transing. He cannot place Discord. Damage is limited. Nice is dead. He cannot deal damage. Main source of damage is dead. Parker is off the map. You cannot chase anyone down because allowed for the other team. Or there's none for either team. Fact Fiction and Mangachu is still alive. Unless you finish them off, you're never going to be able to finish the fight, ever. So let's see this. You get no picks. But why is this bad from Fact? Let's see. Exact same reason. You know the enemy Ryan has Shatter because he hasn't used it in a while. I'm 100% sure they know that the Ryan has Shatter. You're going into this? Let's watch it again. So right here, someone needs to focus on Beast Halo. I honestly think Fact Fiction, Mangachu, and Paintbrush, I think this is completely fine, except that Paintbrush should go for a boop onto Beast Halo. And the reason for that is, sure, it could hit this small plateau down here, but the only win condition left is the Shatter. But again, it's fine, because main source of damage is dead with the Zarya, and the ability to chase down kills and actually follow up on anything is gone with Lucio. The main two tools used to follow up on the Orion Shatter, except Sun damage, which is long range, but he's in trance because he had to say Beast Halo, meaning they don't have that. So there is no way to follow up on this screen with the Shatter whatsoever.
Set up there, and now still committing. I don't understand why they transcended. They think they.
In this kind of fight, it's probably just panic. It's a good Shatter from both rounds. It hits a ton of people. It's just the timings. And in the end, it comes down to Fusion Uni trying to recover a somewhat lost fight. And it's difficult to say if they could have done it differently. But the big thing in this fight, because I don't want to go too deep into, oh, this could have happened, this could have happened. But the big thing that happens in this fight is the Shatter. For Fact. The Shatter from Fact hits because he knows when Beast Halo is going to Fire Strike, because Fire Strike's on cooldown. We're going to watch that in the next fights as well. And that's probably the fight over, and it's probably the map over, because look at the ult advantage now. Fusion Uni is at such an ult disadvantage from using the trance and using the Shatter that there's probably no way they come back.
When it off of the Shatter from Beast Halo drops the Shatter, hits an incredible amount, but there was already 2 down. Fact had already killed 2, booped off 1.
Some also, and he's been doing this for most of the Mayhem games so far this season.
So Mayhem also still holding on to their grab as well, and still no support ults. I mean, usually they stalled so long on the bridge waiting for Alarm's trance, but it's gone again, and Shaq still has grab.
Again, exact same setup. Let's look at the Fire Strikes.
Academy, again, the standoff here at the bridge. They have plenty of resources in reserve.
Aggro rally play. Usually I would be, aggro rally play, that's really good, right? Into a ton of ultimates. Well, in this situation where you're running into 5 ultimates, there's very little you can do all over. There's very little you can do. And this forces the trance, forces the grab out, which is probably what Fusion Uni would have wanted to do anyway, because Alarm doesn't have trance. So there's no reason to use this bomb from Manhattan. They know they don't have trance. If they need to, they can beat it to make sure that no one can kill anyone during the trance grab. There's no reason to bomb when you have this many ultimates against this few. Because the only ultimate that would maybe be considered needed because of the aggro play or damage you take would be the beat. You would want to keep the trance, but you could use the beat. And that would be enough to win the fight. Because the bomb in itself is such a good ultimate in this point. Because, okay, so let's say the team pushes through castle. And you decide, okay, we're just going to hold right here. In a cone behind the Rhine. And this is our space. And the instant the enemy Rhines are contesting our Rhine, we lob a bomb over, we split the team in 2, and we kill whatever's in the front line. If they come over the bridge, the Rhine is here, and our Rhine is here. Let them walk a bit closer, and when the Rhines meet, we bomb the middle of the bridge, split the team in two, and kill the Rhine. You can't really do that with Beat in the same way, because it doesn't isolate players. It enables your own team instead of disabling the enemy. The demon disables the enemy team, stopping them from being able to follow up. But the Beat only enables your team to follow up. It doesn't disable the enemy team from countering. And that's a very big difference. So I think keeping on to the bomb for a potential next fight would be better. But it doesn't really matter in the big scene of things. And the reason for that is Mayhem Academy has a big ult advantage.
Down, and again, Paintbrush knocks them off the map.
Even without the knocks, the fight was over anyways. There was no Transcendence alive. The grab was so big that they were going to get the cleanup anyways.
This...
Or they're waiting for Mangachu to call.
So smart. They've been holding so
Are they going to...
This, as the casters just said, is really smart. And I'm going to give you 2 reasons for why it's smart. 1. Fusion Uni is probably still making a plan for the fight. They're not going to be able to react to this. And usually that would be fine to still be making a plan when you brought Fusion Uni is. However, Mayhem Academy has played every single fight so far slow. So Fusion Uni is like, okay, they're going to play slow again. Let's make a plan for them playing slow. Let's counter the ultimate they have. Okay, good stuff. What are we going to do? Oh, they have Shadow, they have Chance, they have Beat, they have Rally. They might aggro play into us from the front. They might be looking for a Shatter again, make sure you're not Fire Strike. And that's how they're walking up the point now. And then suddenly, Mayhem just said, hey, we're not going to do that. We are going to int you from somewhere you didn't expect. That's exactly what happens here. Fusion Uni is not ready for this play, and therefore it works, because they don't expect it. In theory, it's not a good play, because it's easily counterable. In practice, or in actuality, it's a really good play, because the team does not expect this to happen.
Bait Mangachu? Or they're waiting for Mangachu to call for the... They're calling for Mangachu for the engage!
Oh, they're going in! Okay, both runs gonna trade out. In fact, doesn't quite have the cleanest. No!
But look at it. Look, it's a complete mess. And that's fine for Mayhem Academy because they have ult advantage. They will win this fight from ult advantage because they have the Beat, which enables their team to follow up. And it's the opposite. If you wanted to play slow, you would have to have Diva Bomb to disable the enemy team. But this way, they enable their own team by doing an aggressive play like this, which aren't expected because they changed the pace. And changing the pace is so important, especially in a Ghost Mirror. Because if you just do the same over and over, the enemy team is going to be, oh, they're going to do this again. Here's our counter. They counter it. Most teams are going to be able to do that. But if you're like, oh, we're going to play slow, then we're going to play slow again, and then we're going to play fast, then slow, and then fast again. If you change the way you play between fights, it's so hard to react to you. Especially throughout a longer series. Being able to play multiple styles is so good. And Mayhem Academy is really showing that they know when to play aggressive and when to do these stupid into the enemy backline plays, which sometimes is the best option. And it's not often the best option because it wins you this map, but it gives you so much momentum.
Still catches alarm. The Shatter gets him on the back, and he's down. Epps finishes. What back starts? This was such a smart shot call for the Mayhem after holding so far back to finally go up front. They were planning around this.
You don't see teams do that. You don't see teams take these aggressive, risky...
So like the casters are talking about here, that because they play slow, the rest of this, before this, they don't expect them to play aggressive. This is called a change of pace. And it's a theory that every team should abuse. And it's very efficient, especially in Tier 3. So if you Tier 3 people are watching this, and if you want to learn something, changing the pace of how you play is so important. It's already done for a majority in Tier 2 and Tier 1, but it's one of the biggest issues I see whenever I try to help a Tier 3 team. It is that you just do the same thing over and over again. You play basic. But even if you play basic, you play the same way of basic all the time. You don't change the type of basic. So just change where you're holding, change where you're coming from, change how fast you're playing or how slow, and it's really, really good.
Plays sometimes, and that was a beautiful play. That's the type of play which Fusion Uni would never expect.
I think it absolutely...
Again, they're playing slow, but they change where they're playing slow. Why do they do that? Well, the payload is moving back. The payload is somewhere around here probably now, which means that the bridge is not where the fight would happen anyway. And the payload is going to keep moving back throughout this fight. So even if Fusion Uni wins this fight, Mayhem Academy has time to recontest because they aren't fighting on payload. And if anyone from Fusion leaves early of the fight to go to payload, push it, Mayhem Academy very likely just wins the fight straight up.
Caught them off guard. Fusion University.
This is kind of the same idea you have with spawn camping. If you spawn camp a team, they cannot be on payload. If one of them runs to be on payload, then you're pretty bad at spawn camping in a goat's mirror. But in general, there shouldn't be a way for them to leave spawn in which you aren't able to punish them because of map geometry. But as long as the payload is moving back, you get yourself an extra 10 seconds. So if they fight right here where they are now, and Fusion Uni wins this fight at this exact moment, it wouldn't be 35 seconds to push the payload. It would be 5 seconds to get the payload, and then 30 seconds to push. And they also need to push it for 5 seconds extra. So every second, maybe a bit less because payload movement speed. So let's say that for every 5 seconds they fight here, it's 2.5 seconds the payload needs to move extra. Which means that if they fight right here for 10 seconds, it's gonna be like about 5 seconds where the payload needs to move extra. And that again leads to issues because Mayhem Academy gets more fights than they should have. And I think that might be a reason why they're doing this.
Now, they do have some ults in reserve. They have power that they can rely on here, but they're down to the final fight.
And they're so hurt on the rotation too. They've already had to use the armor packs. Now Fusion Uni, they have their
10 seconds. Fusion Uni has to waste. While they have an ult advantage, Mayhem Academy is building ults, but the payload is not moving forward. It's really good for Mayhem.
all the ults they need to win a fight.
And Mayhem Academy, they've already changed the course of battle.
This was okay. So I just want to compliment both the play from Bernard and the patience from Shax here. Let's look at it again.
Ults they need to win a fight.
Look at this. The entire Fusion Uni is running at us. Ah, no. If they get out here, they can punch our tanks and boop us down. We need to grab this. Is what every normal Zarya would think. So, in reply to that, Bernard flies off from behind and DMs for the grab. They're ready for this. They saw this coming. They don't grab.
And Mayhem Academy, they've already changed.
This is the way I see the most grabs get eaten. And the thing is, their main team cannot push in on you without the D.Va. The D.Va is the main reason they can push here, because she can boot people off. So it's just, it's a smart play from Bernard in an attempt, because it makes sense. If the D.Va was there, that would have been very risky to hold on to the grab for those extra seconds. And they would have had to grab the wall before they even walked in. But it's very smart from Backslam to wait.
The course of battle here. They're not pulling back to the bridge. They're not holding far forward. They're holding in a more awkward spot. Grab's not going to be used here early from Shax. Manitin threads it through.
This is really, really like good play from Fusion Uni to get back into the fight and forces Mayhem Academy ults.
Ice is down. Self-destruct back the other way from Bernard, though. Going to be doing more by comparison. Fusion Uni still very much in this fight, but look at that. Down here.
Okay, where did they start touching payload? Let's see.
Self-destruct back the other way from Bernard, though. Going to be doing more.
Right there. 9 to 10 seconds. That's where they touch. It wasn't 35. That's what it was on. And they should have been able to like run to payload and start fighting on payload at 30-ish. That's a lot of time. That's the payload moving backwards on. And normally, this would have been the end of the map if M Academy held passive, held on the bridge. That what normal people would hold. It would already be over because the payload would moving once the fight was over. But here, there's so long without the payload moving. It's moving backwards during the fight, which is a big part. So Fusion Uni is not going to finish the point yet. Mayhem Academy gets another contest. Not holding a payload has so many benefits, and it's why spawn camping is good because it gives you that extra fight afterwards. and it might gain you a whole fight.
Oh, running for dear life.
There's still recontest available for Mayhem too. Look how far away the card is from the cap. The Mayhem they're on OT spawns, but they can't contest. In fact, he's getting isolated, but with Paintbrush down, it seems unlikely.
Well, it means that Fusion University is going to be taking a jump off the bridge here in all likelihood. Fact, just going to get pummeled onto the side. But you look at this. He's getting well protected. Manitin back on in. Mangachu going to drop the rally.
I also want to say that a big reason this works is the fact that Mayhem Academy got those picks in the fight before, which limits Fusion's University efficiency here, and it leads them going to Sombra.
This fight is not over here yet. Even as Beast Halo swings the hammer, he's under pressure.
I would say it's very much over for the reason that Eps goes Moira. When he comes back, there is no way Fusion University kills anyone. They don't have a Zarya. They don't have the Zarya damage. They have a Moira who's going to rely on ultimate instead, still damage. But Nice has to switch to Moira because he needs to get back. And the fact that there's just people dead, and then when Eps comes back then on Moira, he's able to just heal all his tanks. Because Beast Halo does damage between targets, he cleaves them. Moira heals all the cleave targets. Bernard is trying when he needs to eat his healing orb, where he can get ultimate instantly. And he's going to build Moira ult so quickly because that's how Moira works. So there's no way to come back into a fight. Like, Moira is so good here as a pick. It's really smart from Eps to switch here. It was his coaches who told him that. They're pretty smart.
He's gonna fall. Shax ends up finding him towards the very end. And Mayhem Academy, they're fighting this back. They've done enough here. Avast. It's gonna be Mayhem Academy holding here at point B.
Mangachu just beast moded. Mangachu just.
You might say Mangachu beast moded, but this fight was over before it started. This was won by the aggressive play they did a minute and a half ago. And it's really good from Mayhem Academy. They change pace, they change where they're holding, they play different styles throughout the map, and Fusion Unit tries to do the same thing over and over and over again, with very little innovation and very little unexpected play. They rely on their basic, mechanically strong, and solid macro that they're doing, which in theory, everything is really good. But the instant, oh, we're gonna do this weird thing that you've never seen before from Mayhem, Fusion Unit just falls over, and we don't know how to deal with this. It doesn't help that Beast Halo got shattered once when he shouldn't have been on the bridge. It doesn't help that Alarm and Beast Halo use their ultimates in the same fight, and that's pretty much a throw fight from Fusion Uni, which allows Mayhem Academy to snowball as hard as they do. And Mayhem makes so many smart decisions to make sure this happens.
Has the rally late. I'm gonna stay alive when we.
And I just want to say that the outcome of this round could have been very different. That chance and that shadow on the bridge wasn't used for Fusion Uni. It would provide them with much more options going into the next fight.
Shax, he puts in a off me.
Stealing the
Mayhem Academy gonna.
Okay, we are back on first point of Eichenwalde, and Fusion Uni is playing Goats on defense. Why are they playing Goats on defense? Well, they're playing Goats on defense because it allows them to play Goats on second point if they want to, and still have ultimates. And if they weren't playing Goats, and then Mayhem Academy played Goats, then Mayhem Academy would have ultimate going to second point and probably just snowballing the entire point. But Fusion Uni has to go this because they don't have a third point to try to come back on. Have to finish this on first and second. And such a big issue with Goat's meta. Goat snowballs so hard that if there's not a whole map to stabilize on, you are never coming back. So capping, having to full hold, or having just 2 points to go on, it's so hard to play anything but Goats.
Be on the offense, gonna be playing triple DPS, and
I would say the only exception to this would be 2CP. 2CP is very different. We're going to look at that on Saturday for the second episode of the series. We're going to look at the 2CP game. And I'm going to explain why 2CP is quote unquote the most fun game mode on this patch. And it's basically going to be me explaining why Goats is so much played on payload compared to 2CP, why 2CP sees so much more variation, and the issues that 2CP is creating on the newer patch that we see in all right now.
Mayhem Academy can afford to play the triple DPS here because all they have to do is guarantee the first cap, which triple DPS is very strong for doing so, and then they need to make the swap to that 3T per second.
And Mangachu right now.
Okay, what I haven't talked about yet is Mayhem Academy is not playing goats. They're playing triple DPS, Sun Mercy, and a Hammond. Why is this a good choice for Mayhem Academy? Well, it's pretty much a secured first fight win. Fusion Duty is just going to try to stay alive for as long as possible and build some ultimates. Then they're either going to force Mayhem Academy to switch off this comp once they win one fight and then spawn camp them, or it's going to force Mayhem Academy to go goats after first fight, which is fine because they have enough time to stabilize.
Mangachu over the top here. Heavy damage coming in from the Pharah, and this is usually an advantage to the DPS comp here, and already they're pushing Fusion quite off the point.
Yeah, Fusion are just...
I do think that Mayhem Academy is a team of North American contenders who has to have the most success with DPS comps. And I think the reasoning for that, of course, Mangachu is an amazing Pharah, Dax is amazing on the Tracer, absolute monsters, both of them. But also there's the fact that Fact is a really good Hammond, and it's something you don't see a lot of, because he doesn't pop off in a big way, like the Pharah or the Tracer or the Sombra does. He's kind of just staying alive and putting a lot of pressure, not allowing the follow-up onto the Paintbrush, or to the Mangachu, or Stax, or Manhattan. None of them get pressure sufficiently.
Just entirely off. They backed up. You see that currently Bernard is hacked. Still just poke damage coming out onto Mayhem. This is so much early DMAC onto Bernard.
Yeah, and this is looking really well. This is what...
And his positioning as well is really important to look at, because look at the angles. So, Fusion University is realistically going to contest from this direction, because they're coming back from spawn if they die, and it's this and this, which is like the viable place for them to come out from. And Mangachu is going to say, okay, I'm going to take this sightline, Jack is going to take this sightline, and then Fact is going to be forcing them to play in the space between the sightlines. I'm not entirely sure where Manhattan is right now, but I assume he's in the back somewhere. Let's see if we can find him.
What a DPS comp can do to Eichenwalde point A, and they're just
He's in the back killing Alarm. Okay.
kind of dissecting Fusion University here.
But the important part is they put up multiple sight lines, they shoot from multiple places, meaning the rank cannot shield all the damage. Eva cannot DM half of it and rank shield half of it. They're shooting from 3 directions, meaning that one is always getting in damage. And mostly 2 of them are getting in damage because rank can also only block 1.
Here.
And
University at most they're playing for
really in here.
The delay isn't even going to be that much. Just 2 decisive damage from all angles.
So let's see. Does Fusion University switch from Ghosts here?
Academy did that just clinically by isolating Bernard, getting the hack out of Bernard, focusing Bernard.
No, they don't. They stay on all heroes off the goats. Mayhem Academy goes aggressively here, just to kill nice, and that's where they keep the comp. And they might keep it for one fight because of ultimates. Let's see.
To give Mangachu the maximum amount of value. Because Mangachu's Pharah is without...
There's a big risk now for Fusion Uni. Are they gonna pick a counter to the PS comp? Or are they gonna try to stay on the goats? The issue is that they lost the first fight so quickly they didn't build any ultimates. Nice is 52%, Bernard 38, Beast Hill 24, Alarm 61, First 65, Snail 67. They're too far away from anything, which means that Mayhem Academy can win this next fight with 1 or 2 ultimates. They can snowball 2 fights from winning the first point, and that might be the whole second point. Because Fusion University didn't position themselves in a way where they could block enough damage, because Eichenwalde first is so hard to play Ghosts against DPS on.
So, you know, I mean, we can say this without exaggeration that it is 100% one of the best.
It's always been one of the best in the game. Pre-OWL, post-OWL.
Academy, they're staying on this for the first fight. Though they might have to swap 3-3 after this. It's entirely dependent on how much value they get from this barrage, from Shax's pulls.
Mangachu setting up for the barrage over the top. Too much poke.
So, there is a swap onto the McCree. But does that really matter? No, it doesn't, because we're playing Eichenwalde. It's so hard for the McCree to find the value onto Eichenwalde do anything against the Pharah. Because there's this castle in the middle where Pharah can play around the walls. And she doesn't need to play high up in the air because what's gonna happen to her if she plays high up in the air? McCree's gonna shoot her. And if she play low ground, there's nothing who can dive her. She can't dive to a Winston jumping and then have to dash up in the air. There's no way she's gonna die. She can basically just run at the ground and then eat herself away and use the walls as cover. So Mangachu is fine playing this low, and then just wait for a good opportunity to get a barrage in, and then Fact Fiction is gonna follow that up with a good boop. And they were gonna do this. And it's a really good play.
He goes for the sneaky business. He drops down, drops back up, gets 2 off the barrage. And even a good diva like Bernard didn't realize it was coming.
And that was so good for Mayhem, because the quintessential problem you run into often
Gets 2 barrage, but then
it's entirely dependent on how
over the top. Too much poke damage.
Bernard's not even hacked here. It just happened too quickly.
But then he goes for the sneaky business. He drops down, drops back.
the EMP. You have to invest in EMP to move forward, but they didn't.
Also, something important. Nice is no longer on the Zarya, meaning they don't have Grav, and Grav is the main way they stabilize against DPS comp. What I would say, though, is that if they wanted to change something, instead of changing the McCree for the previous fight, they could have changed the break and gone for a Roadhog, and then changed their Sen to a Moira and gone Quad Tank. Why is this a problem? Well, if Mayhem Academy loses a fight and goes Goats, they're going to be forced to drop back. But they're still going to have Lucio, Alt Charge, Winston, Eva, Zarya. And then having to switch to other heroes. But I think on Eichenwalde especially, going Quad Tank is the only good choice into a DPS comp on second. Unless you have built enough Alt Charge from first to place to get a Zarya ult off and snowball. Because once the Goats wins one fight, oh boy, you're not going to have fun as the attacker if you play DPS. They're just going to spawn camp you, and that should be enough to hold the map.
They only invested.
I don't like the McCree swap here from Nice. Like they're trying to put pressure on the Mangachu, but this terrain is so bad for McCree.
It is, and these chokes are just not good from either. As you see, Fusion Unity, they're entering here. There's the Valkyrie out for Paintbrush.
Valkyrie up.
They got a pick. It's enough. And they did a minefield covering this whole main choke. There's no way for them to get out yet. They still have two ultimates as well for the next fight, and Mangachu dealing damage.
Again, getting the early pickoff. The Pharah pressure has been just completely suffocating here. Fusion Unity.
Why do you peek? Fusion, why are you going? Are you panicking to touch? You still have time. You can wait for Beasttail to come back and have him contest first. And then walk out after the mines are down and use both sides. Right here, you're putting yourself in such a bad situation, and Nice gets to feel that when Factvision throws him off the map.
University gasping to breathe, and it's not getting any better. They can't even get out. And then they've almost done it. The payload almost through. Mayhem Academy about to go up 2-0 over the defending champions.
So, right now, this is where normally we would ask the question, why are you running DPS on attack? Because once you hit third point, and one team is playing Goats, the Goats team is always going to win. There is no third point because of where Mayhem Academy held their defense. And this comes from them forcing Fusion Unity to not play Goats on first point, meaning they cannot snowball second, and forcing the mirror in a somewhat stalemate. It's also from Mayhem Academy being super aggressive, playing unconventionally, and changing tempo and changing the pace of game. Fusion Uni plays very basic, which is abusable, and some of their players are also playing in abusable ways, which Mayhem Academy, of course, uses. Mayhem Academy also uses the fact that their DPS players are so strong mechanically. Fusion Uni tries to rely on their Sen being so strong mechanically. It's just a different prioritization of how they play, and Fusion Uni seems like, I'm not going to say play or run, but very much the safe option team. While Mayhem just plays balls to the wall, Overwatch, and go for it. They go for doing what they feel is right for their team. And it works. But Fusion Uni, again, they play so basic, and I'm not meaning basic is a bad thing. In most situations, it's the best, as long as the other team also plays basic. It's like, if they do the best optimal thing, this is the best thing we could do. But if they do anything else, this could be bad. Let's not talk about that. And the downfall I feel when I've been coaching a team in both scrims and matches is that the instant the team aren't prepared for a play, they just lose this. Even if there's ult advantage, even if they have like a really good setup or superior comp, if you aren't able to react to what the other team is doing, just lose. Especially in GOATS meta. But that's going to be all for now. There's going to be a new episode up on Saturday. And I'm going to be looking at 2CP. And I'm going to explain the quote-unquote new GOATs of 2CP. And kind of the similar issue on the live patch from OWL. Of the Baptiste introduction, of the changes to armor, and all such things. But that's that. Thanks for watching now, and I'll see you again next time.